have a story that is quietly sabotaging you building relationships with your sphere of influence. When I say that to agents, they'll usually respond by saying, "No, I just need to be more disciplined or more consistent or better at staying in touch." That's what they tell themselves anyway. But after working with tens of thousands of real estate agents over decades, I know that everybody has that story. And that is why they are avoiding these relationship building activities, even when they know it matters, and how those stories create this quiet resistance. And I'm also going to be talking about a simple process for changing that story and reshaping behavior. Because those stories that we tell ourselves do quietly shape who we call and who we avoid and how we show up and how we sound. The real challenge here is that most stories don't sound like stories. They sound like the truth. So when you tell yourself, "I don't want to bother them," or you tell themselves, "They know I'm an agent, so they'll call me when they have a need," or "I don't want to sound pushy," or "I'll call them tomorrow," or "I just don't have time." But what if those thoughts aren't the problem? What if those thoughts are the symptom? Years ago, I discovered I had this one small story that was quietly changing the way I showed up with people. And I didn't even realize it until someone called me out. I'll never forget it. Years ago, a very successful agent overheard me talking on the phone with a lead. A few minutes later, she walked into my office. She had a look on her face. She wasn't angry, but she was determined. She came in, she picked up a piece of paper and a pen, and she wrote on that paper, "They need you." Then she taped it to the back of my phone. And then she looked at me and she said, "You sound needy on your calls." Ouch, that hurt. She said something I've never forgotten. "If you switch the way you think, everything will change. Stop thinking that you need them because really they need you. You'll care for them. You'll treat them fairly. You'll listen to them. You'll protect them all the way through the transaction. They need you." Honestly, it hit me hard. I had created that story that I need you. I need the business. I felt like that little boy from the play. "Can I have some more porridge, please?" That's the way I felt. And once I believed that story, changed the way I showed up. And that energy I had of that I need them, created behavior. And the stories you're telling yourself create behavior too. But just let's be truthful. Nobody's walking around saying, "I have limiting beliefs." Instead, you're saying things to yourself. "I need a reason to call," or "If they need me, they'll reach out," or "This feels awkward." Those don't sound like stories. They sound like facts, but they're not facts. They're interpretations. The interpretations drive behavior. And because if you believe people think I want business, then you're going to delay. You are going to avoid. You are going to disappear. Not because you're lazy and not because you're undisciplined, but because your actions are matching your story. So, how do you change the story? Well, you don't change it by pretending it doesn't exist because stories repeated long enough feel really true. Instead, let's follow these 4 steps to change your story. And the first step is catch the story because most stories are operating very quietly. So, first, ask yourself, what am I saying to myself? What are some reoccurring thoughts that roll through your head? Like, "They probably don't want to hear from me," or "They'll call me if they need me." Those are those things that you're saying because of that story. But all stories don't show up in thoughts. Some show up in behavior. Things like, I don't have time. I'll call them tomorrow. I'll do it when things slow down. But you know that tomorrow turns into next week and next week changes next month. And somehow it never happens because often those statements aren't time problems, they're resistance problems. And resistance problems usually have a story hiding underneath them. So ask yourself, what am I avoiding? And what story might be creating that avoidance? Because you can't change a story you don't recognize. Awareness comes first. Number 2, challenge the story. Ask yourself, is it true? Do not ask yourself, does that feel true? Because feelings are not facts. Ask yourself, what evidence do I actually have that that story is true? Bet you can't find any. Number 3, replace the story. Years ago, when I was thinking, I need them, I flipped that story, and my story became this one. A home is one of the biggest financial and emotional investments people make. They are depending on me to be a trusted source of information and guidance and support, not just through the process of buying or selling a house, but through their life. That shift changed everything because I stopped showing up like somebody hoping to be chosen and stopped showing up and started showing up like somebody who deserved the responsibility and was going to serve them. My tone changed, my conversations changed, and my business changed because that story changed my behavior. And then number 4, act before you fully believe it. Confidence rarely shows up first, evidence does. So take one small action aligned with the new story. It might be send a text, or you saw a house that closed in a neighborhood of one of your sphere of influence. Make the call to tell them about that, how that happened, who bought it, why did it sell, how it sold, what did that reflect to their house. Do that. Or maybe just ask a thoughtful question, because often action requires proof, and proof creates belief. So here's the bottom line. Most agents don't struggle because they don't know what to do. They struggle because their stories are quietly shaping what they do. And that is where we're heading next. Over the next several weeks, we're going to be uncovering all those beliefs. We're going to create create all this resistance, and we're going to show you how to replace those shifts, create actions, and the tools that will make relationship building feel a whole bunch easier. Because when you change your story, you often change everything.